No good can come from talking to the police, even if you are the police. This is the advice that I gave every officer that worked for me and every police officer I ever trained, that if they were involved in an officer-involved shooting, keep your mouth shut. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about everything that's going to occur after an officer-involved shooting, but it's going to be from the perspective of a 30-year retired police officer who has been to and handled those officer-involved shootings and self-defense shootings. You've heard from lawyers in the past to talk about what you should do in an officer-involved shooting, and they basically tell you to keep your mouth shut, which is true. And we're going to talk about how to do that because there's going to be a lot of pressures on you. It's more complicated than that because the officers are going to show up and you're going to be required to do certain things. We're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about how you're going to protect yourself. I'm going to give you some outs too that's going to protect yourself as well. It's a complicated subject, but we're going to tear it all apart. Now, this channel, we primarily do everything for church security teams. This is for all my church security team people that might be involved in a critical incident in church. But if you're a concealed carrier or somebody else that might be involved in a self-defense shooting, including our police officers, this would benefit you as well. You are welcome to stay and learn as much as you can. For those of you that need a certificate of training, head on over to courses.christianwarriortraining.com. I will put it up over there in a couple of days. It's going to take a few. And then you can take the course, watch the same video, take the course over there, and then go ahead and get a certificate of training to help you out later for those of you that are required to have that training. Now let's go back to my opening statement. No good can come from the police, even when you are the police. I've been saying that since 1998. Now it's emphasizing for officers to keep their mouth shut. Now people say officers should be treated like citizens when it comes to shootings. They are. In fact, they have less rights than you. They have to give up their First Amendment right and their right to self-incrimination, their Fifth Amendment right, because they're required to give certain information. You are not required to give that information. So just to put it in perspective, officers are going to be required to say how many rounds they fired, which direction, if there's any outstanding suspects. All of those are incriminating statements. I always like telling my officers to keep their mouth shut. They will always call a lawyer who we have on hand already. And it's tough. I remember one specific officer-involved shooting where it was some guys that were going to rob a bank. And I remember one of the officers that pulled the trigger, he looked at me and said, "I got him." Good for you, dude. Keep your mouth shut. I had to remind him repeatedly to keep his mouth shut throughout that contact before IA Internal Affairs finally showed up. You don't want to make incriminating statements like that. Even though he was completely justified, the people were trying to kill us, and he did a great job, and he did get him, but he's throwing himself under the bus. Conversely, I've seen an officer, same agency, he invoked his right to remain silent, and I watched a captain walk over and said, "I don't care. You're going to tell me what happened anyways," and coerced him into a statement. There is going to be similar pressure against you after a shooting. People are going to try and get you to make some cursory statement because they want to clear up what's going on. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what you can say, how to get around that, and how to take care of yourself. Now, even though you're completely justified, you're going to want to say something to clear your good name because a lot of us grew up being taught to be totally honest. And we could even in our hearts know that we're completely justified, and you more than likely are. But you could have a prosecutor in your area that is going to go use you as a political tool to further themselves. And if you don't believe that can happen to you, just watch the video, The Fall of Minneapolis. The Fall of Minneapolis just came out, and it is a good insight into the George Floyd shooting. And you can look at that, watch that. And I want you to think to yourself, what is going to happen to me if I'm involved in a controversial shooting? I have seen a number of officers recently, since 2014, get prosecuted for homicide for clear evidence of justifiable self-defense shootings, including defending other people. So if they're going to do that to us, what are they going to do to you? The other thing you need to worry about is lawsuits. Now, a majority of officer-involved shootings result in a civil suit against the police officer, their supervisors, the department, and the governing entity like the city, county, or state that they work for. I have been sued for this exact thing before. So you talking is not just about criminal liability, but it's about civil liability as well. You can get cleared criminally, but the family is going to come out en masse talking about how this guy was just getting his life back together, and then you came along and ended it. And then they're going to come after you. So we have to worry about that civil lawsuit issue as well. All right, let's break it down. Here are the major things that you're going to have to do immediately after a self-defense shooting. Number one, you're going to provide medical assistance immediately. You need to quickly assess injuries for yourself and for the guy you just shot. So check yourself first. Make sure you haven't been shot. There's been plenty of incidents where somebody has been shot and they don't realize it till much later. In fact, one of my friends got shot and he did not realize it till he was booking the guy that he got in a shootout with into the jail. And a deputy said, "Hey man, your foot's bleeding." And he looked down and realized he had been shot in the foot, never noticed, and was walking around this entire time with a guy he'd been involved in a shootout with. I read a book by a renowned police psychologist, and she went through and talked to survivors of officer-involved shootings, and she interviewed one officer. When the shooting was done, it was a two-way shooting, back and forth. The officer had killed the bad guy, and then the officer started checking himself, and he saw a hole in his abdomen. And when he looked at it, he realized he had been shot and he immediately started bleeding. So there's a lot of amazing things that happen. A lot of times you may not feel it and realize it, so check yourself. The other thing is you're going to want to check the bad guy. It is the moral and ethical thing to provide that person with aid. You should not just walk away. The other thing is, in a civil suit, it looks good when you provide aid and try to save the person. And again, it's just that moral thing to do. Yeah, the guy may have tried to kill you, but that's what separates us from animals, is you're going to go give that person aid. Now, you're going to search them to make sure they don't get the weapon away from them, make sure they don't have a secondary weapon or a way to hurt you, and you're going to provide aid. The other things you're going to do at this point is you're going to call 911. Now, that call to 911 is going to be recorded, and if you are the one calling, that is going to show up in any investigation, and they are going to dissect every single thing you say to that dispatcher.
I shot him.
You shot him?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I've got everybody coming out for help, okay?
Please hurry. Don't get up, I'll shoot your ass again.
Now I'm going to go over how a call will go for you and how you could avoid answering questions but still give the needed information without incriminating yourself. Now let's go over that 911 call. It's better for having a witness to make that 911 call. You're going to want the witness to call because you want them saying, yes, there was a shooting, the bad guy's down. If you're the person that calls for another person was involved in that shooting, it's good to lay it out like the guy came into the church, he was firing, one of our security team members shot him and stopped him. The suspect is down. We're providing aid. The scene is secure. And then let everybody know they can start coming in. You let the dispatcher know, and remember, it's all recorded. You let them know how bad this was. You let them know there was a self-defense shooting, that you don't want to over dramatize it, but you just kind of want to let those tidbits know because it's recorded. And if they decide to come after that person in a civil suit or a criminal jury trial, your call is going to be played to the jury, and you want people to hear your view of it. It's really important for the person that fired to keep their mouth shut. And if it's your friend that shot somebody, remind them to keep their mouth shut. All right. If you have to call 911 because you are by yourself, the 911 dispatcher is going to answer, 911, what's your emergency? What's the location of your emergency, or something like that. The best way to advise them what's going on is to say, a person came into our church. He tried to shoot somebody. He tried to stab somebody, whatever, kind of briefly say what happened. Our church security team, you're not saying the church security team shot him and stopped him. We need ambulance and we need police right now. The dispatcher is going to want to keep you on the line until the officers or the deputies show up. During that time, they're going to start asking you questions. Who shot him? And you're going to want to say, well, it was me. They're going to want to know, where's the gun now? Well, it's still on me. They're going to want to know, who's the bad guy? Do you know him? They're going to ask all sorts of questions. And all of that can be used against you in a civil trial, and more than likely can be used against you in a criminal trial.
Okay, where did you shoot him? Ma'am, where did you shoot him at?
In my house, he's in my bathroom.
No, where in his body? Where in his body did you shoot him?
What?
Where in his body?
He's laying half in my bathroom and half in the hallway. Where in the body?
No, yeah, did you hit him?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, do you recognize him? Is he somebody?
No, I don't recognize him.
Okay, so he came into the bathroom where you were?
I'm in the front bathroom.
Okay.
I said don't move.
The best way to handle this is when they answer to say there was a shooting, a bad guy came into our church, he started shooting or tried to shoot somebody. Our church security team shot him. He's down. He's been shot in the stomach. He's been shot in the chest, been shot in the head, something, whatever it is. Describe what that is. We need medical and the police. When they start asking you more questions, like if they ask you what's the address, where can they respond from, that's fine. They're going to ask those types of questions. Go ahead and answer those. That you don't want to appear like you're somehow blocking answers, because that's going to be used against you too. So you want to look like you are giving help and giving direction. But when they start asking who shot him, all that kind of stuff, say, hey, I got to go. I have to render medical aid to this guy, and then hang up. Don't wait for them to say, okay. Don't wait. And then they're going to call your phone back, because they're going to have your phone number. They're going to start calling you back. Don't answer, because you are giving medical aid. You are going to go down and help that person. You also have to secure the church, and there's other things that you have to do. But that's my best advice to you. Now, one of the things that I recommend, we're going to talk a lot more about some other things that are going to happen when the cops show up and what the cops' job are, and then how you're going to handle that questioning later on down the road, and how you're going to interact with your attorney. But one of the things I advocate a lot for church security teams is that you guys go out and do role-playing training. So when you do that scenario-based training, which we're going to put out a guide here in a couple weeks, that's going to have, it's literally going to be a book of scenarios that you can do with outcomes and how to do it and all that kind of stuff, that you can just open up a book and start doing scenario training with your people. If you have one that results in a scenario that results in a shooting in that scenario, then you should not stop and say, all right, we're done. No, don't really call the police, but mimic calling the police. Have somebody play the role of the dispatcher who's asking you questions, so you can learn to not incriminate yourself, disengage quickly, go give medical aid. Have somebody play the role of a police officer showing up, asking you these questions, so you can have experienced it before it actually happens to you. All right, so we've pretty much established I need you to keep your mouth shut. Anything you say could be used against you. Again, remember, no good can come from talking to the police, even when you are the police. I have been in the position where I've had my rights read because I refused to talk to my supervisors during incidents that I knew that they can come after me criminally. Now, I didn't do anything wrong. I know I was totally righteous. It is a crappy feeling to have, especially somebody you know, but to have a police officer sitting across from you and start reading you your Miranda rights. But remember, the very first right they give you is you have the right to remain silent. I invoke my right to remain silent. Done. Right? Never give up a right ever. Would you give up your Second Amendment rights? Would you give up your First Amendment right? But people willingly give up their Fifth Amendment right routinely. The same with the Fourth Amendment. I don't understand that. All right, so you got to stay on scene. So you've been in this shooting. You've called 911. Everything's going down. If you need to leave because it's unsafe, then yeah, by all means leave, but still call 911 and let them know what's going on, because you don't want to give the appearance that, you did something bad. But you do want to say, if you did have to leave, hey, I had to leave. Still do there was a shooting. The person is down. You didn't say I. And then say, I had to leave because it's too dangerous. I can meet the officers over here. And then say where that is. So that way it shows that you're still helping the investigation, right? So stay on scene if you can. Most of the time you can, because it was self-defense shooting. That guy's probably down. And you want to go ahead and stand by. At that point, it's very common for shooters to start talking to everybody around them. Just stop. Keep your mouth shut. All right, so what happens when the cops show up? You want to prepare for the police officer's arrival. Okay, there is going to be a lot of cops that are going to show up depending on where you're at. Police are going to want to, when they come in, they have no idea what's happening. All they know is they got a call of a shooting. You could even say it was self-defense shooting, but they don't know that. They haven't talked to everybody yet. So when they roll up, expect that they're going to come in hot with rifles and pistols out. They're going to start ordering everybody to the ground, more than likely. Comply. Do everything they ask. Don't get in their way. Let them do what they need to do. Okay? They have every right to do that. Okay? Or they might just show up and they can obviously see that you're a normal looking guy. That's a criminal with a rifle next to him that obviously you stopped, and they could just be like, hey, we're all good. And I've been in an incident where I was holding somebody at gunpoint. I was off duty in plain clothes. And when the officer rolled up, I was like, crap. I tried to put my handgun away and put my hands up. And he's like, you're good. Keep your gun on him. And I was like, all right. And that was in not a high crime area, but I mean, it was California, which that's not a normal thing in California. So just go with the flow with the officer. If they find out you're the shooter, they may handcuff you and place you in the back of a patrol car. They're investigating a homicide. It is a homicide. When an officer shoots somebody else, it's a homicide. But there's justifiable homicide, and then there's murder, manslaughter, you name it. There's degrees of murder, degrees of manslaughter. But there's also justifiable homicide. They don't know it's a justifiable homicide until they do their investigation. It's still not over yet because the prosecutor is going to decide if that is going to actually be justifiable or not. They're the ultimate decision maker on that. Now, in the county I live, I feel pretty comfortable that I will be taken care of. They'll deem it justifiable and I'll be good to go. Where I came from in Alameda County in California, where my jury pool is Oakland and Berkeley, and the district attorney was a George Soros, or believed to be a George Soros-backed district attorney. Yeah, man, she's prosecuting cops for self-defense shootings. I'm worried about what's going to happen to me. Because the one case that she's prosecuting a cop for right now was a man charging him with a baseball bat. He had tried to tase him, it didn't work, and he finally shot him, and he had actively been attacking people. It's pretty clear cut. Why are they prosecuting for murder? We all want to know, but that could happen to you too. So they're going to put you in a patrol car. You're going to sit there for a little while. Then they're going to come talk to you. They're going to read you, or they should read you your rights. If they don't read you your rights, do not talk to them. If you're a witness, help your buddy out. Explain what happened. It's important to say things like as good warrior men, it's hard for us to say, I was scared. I thought that guy was going to kill us. You have to say that. That lays down what the shooter believes was going to occur to him. So look, I feared for my life. I thought he was going to die. I can't believe he didn't shoot him sooner. I can't believe he showed so much restraint and only shooting him twice. Like whatever it takes, right? You're not lying. You're just laying it all out for everybody to let them know, right? If you're the shooter, when they come over and talk to you, I would like to talk to an attorney. If they read you your rights, don't interrupt the officer. Let him go ahead and say it all and say, thank you, officer. I appreciate the job that you're doing, but I would like to talk to my attorney. If he's a good cop, he knows he'd be like, all right. And he'll close the door. And then once they determine it was self-defense, they will let you go. Very rarely are they going to keep you in custody if it's a true self-defense shooting. Now, how long are you going to be tied up? Hours and hours and hours. Expect you're going to be there all day. Let's say it happens at 9 a.m. service at the church. You'll be lucky to go home at 8 o'clock at night. You're going to be tied up all night. Can they detain you? Yes. You were involved in a homicide. It's a homicide no matter what you think. They just have to determine if it's justifiable. Even if it's justifiable homicide, it's still a homicide and has to be investigated. But remember, the officers are wearing body cameras. Be cooperative, be friendly, say, thank you, officer, I appreciate it. Don't fly off the handle. Look, some people have a hard time coping that they shot somebody, and they may cry because, it is a horrible thing. Nobody wants to do that. When the officer shows up and you were crying, that's not the time to sniffle it up and, okay, I'm better. All right, let's talk, because you don't want to cry in front of another man. Go ahead. Let the camera see you crying that this was a bad thing. Don't fake crocodile tear that thing, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Now, I just want you to remember that the police are working a complex scene, and they have to assess the situation quickly, and they have to ensure everybody's safe and that due process is given to everybody, including the bad man that was shot. The big question is, what do I do with my gun? Look, if it's safe and there's no more threats, put your gun away, holster up, so that way you're not staying there. Now, there may be times you're still holding the guy at gunpoint. Just know when that officer arrives on scene, he doesn't know what's going on. You don't know. I know what you told the dispatcher, but 9 times out of 10, that was not what was said to the cop. What was actually said to dispatch and what they actually got on the call may be two different things. So I would holster up, put your hands up, and then do what you need to do. Let's talk about legal representation. So how's that legal representation going to happen after a self-defense shooting? All right. You are going to be tied up in legal limbo for a long time. The county I reside in right now, it's averaging about 6 months for an officer to get cleared for a shooting. There was one we had recently where I watched, they finally released and said the officer has been cleared, and they released the body camera footage. The guy came out his front door shooting at the officer, and the officer returned fire and killed him. And it took him 6 months to clear him. I knew he was clear the minute I looked at the video. Why did it take 6 months? Because prosecutors take forever. I know there are prosecutors watching this right now. No offense to you, but man, you guys move at a snail's pace, man. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't have taken 6 months. He should have been cleared that night. They knew that night what was going to happen. They were waiting for toxicology, for all the reports to be in, to say, all right, we're done, right? And then you got lawsuits. If there's a lawsuit, you're going to be tied up for years. And it's going to cost you a lot of money. So how you prevent dishing out tons of money like that is you get good quality concealed carrier insurance. There are lots of options out there. I am going to do another video on the best concealed carry insurance that you can get. I'll be doing that in the next month or so. So I want you to remember when you sit down with your attorney, so you should have an attorney already. So you should look at who's a good attorney for self-defense shootings. Give them a call and say, can I use you if I ever have a self-defense shooting? Yes. Keep their phone number on speed dial. Get a number that you can call. It's a 24-hour number so you can call them out in the middle of the night if that's what it takes around the weekend. So have that attorney set up ahead of time. If you have insurance, they're going to have on your insurance card, they're going to have a phone number for you to call. How do you pick an attorney? I would talk to your local police officers and find out who they use, and I would use that attorney. Why? Because they're routinely representing police officers that are shooting people, and they understand the dynamics of self-defense shooting. That's who I would pick. I would not pick my cousin Vinny.
My cousin Vinny.
I wouldn't pick like some family member or something like that. I would pick a guy that's already repping people, that has experience in the courtroom defending people for self-defense shootings. That's who I'm going to pick. Now, as we leave this whole attorney issue, I want you to understand your rights. They're going to give you the right to remain silent. That means you don't have to say a thing. Anything you say it will be used against you in a court of law. They're going to use that phone call, any spontaneous statement you made to other people, spontaneous statements you made to officers at the scene. Like, you're going to want to qualify when they give you your rights and you say, I want to invoke my rights. I would like to speak with an attorney. And then you're going to want to go, because I had to shoot him. He was killing everybody in the church. I had to shoot him. You're right. You had to. Don't say that. Don't say anything beyond I want to talk to my attorney. And then you're going to consult with your attorney. Your attorney may say, yes, let's go talk to the police because you need to clear yourself. You talk to the attorney about what you're going to say. And then you're going to go in front of the police, and then they're going to record that statement. And then you're going to say what you said in front of the attorney, and then you're going to get cleared. Now, look, you have a right to an attorney. That means that nobody can deny you having access to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, one could be provided for you, any questioning if you wish one. That means a public defender. I would never use a public defender. I will sell my house before I use a public defender.
Look, I think we should meet with the public defender. See what he's like.
No offense to public defenders, but some of you guys are pretty dumb. Just remember, you are the suspect even though you're in the right. You want to be careful about public statements. A lot of people will want to make a social media post that will say, even something innocuous, I want to thank you for all the phone calls and all the prayers. We're doing good, whatever, thank you. No, don't. In fact, what I would do if I were you is if you're involved in a self-defense shooting, I would delete my social media. I would delete everything. The reason being is that somebody's going to write a court order to look at all your social media posts, and they'll find something that you wrote when you were 14 years old and then bring that out to show what a racist you are or what have you. That's happening to cops all the time right now. There was an officer in the San Francisco Bay Area recently that was fired for a statement he made when he was 14 years old on Facebook. And he was now, I want to say, like a 27-year-old police officer or something like that. He'd been a cop for a long time, got hired through they did a thorough background check on this kid. And, well, he's a man now. But some statement he made when he was 14. Think about the dumb things you said when you were 14. That's all going to come out. My personal opinion. Don't hit the button that says to archive your social media. No, delete it, nuke it, get rid of it. Think about this. What's this video right here that I'm doing right now? What's that going to look like if I'm involved in a self-defense shooting? Do you think they're not going to play this in front of a jury if they decide to come after me? Hi, jury. Look up jury nullification on Google while you're watching this. All right. That was for the future jury that I have to worry about. All right. So nuke your social media, delete everything, get rid of it all, and do it immediately. All right. So what's the role of the police in the aftermath of a self-defense shooting? They're going to come in, secure the scene. They're going to collect evidence. The evidence includes your gun. The gun that you use in the self-defense shooting is going to go into evidence. And you're not going to see that for a very long time. Not until this case is totally clear. Now, what does that mean, totally clear? Well, in the county I reside in now, it means that once you get a letter from the district attorney that says that we're not going to charge you, you could probably get your gun back. So that would be like, what, 6 months minimum? The county I came from means they still could charge you 10 years down the road. That gun's not coming back to you for 10 years. It'll still be in evidence. Can they do that? Personally, no, I don't think they can, but they do it anyways. And you're just a little pea in a pond. How are you gonna fight the system? So one of the things that I talk about, I want to go on a kind of a side note here. I talk about truck guns, and I talk about to everybody that my truck gun is a Mark 18. And I know I get a lot of comments. The 1990s want my Mark 18 back. Yes, I understand that. But I also know that I could lose that rifle for a very long time. My go-to for when the apocalypse starts, hopefully God takes me and I go with the rapture right away. But Jesus said, we don't know when that's going to happen. If I'm somehow stuck here, my apocalypse gun is a Knight's Armament with a Knight's Armament silencer. That's a boatload of money for that gun. I am not going to lose that to evidence for years. The Mark 18 is a disposable gun. If they take it, there's no heartbreak for me, man. It could be gone. Look, a Glock. If they take my Glock, it cost me $500. I'll go buy another Glock for $500 to replace the one that was taken in the shooting. So just know that your gun is going to get taken. It happens to police officers too. They take our guns and they book them into evidence, and we get a brand new one, and you're lucky to get it back in a couple of years. They're going to go ahead and take statements from everybody around. So think about a self-defense shooting at the church. You stop an active shooter. Think about all those cool videos of church security teams putting down active shooters before they could do anything. You'll lose that gun, but they're going to take statements from everybody, including every single person in that church. If that's you and you're giving that witness statement, don't forget to talk about how you felt. I thought I was going to die. I thought my kids were going to die. I thought my wife was going to die. I am carrying concealed, and I thought to myself, I need to find and close in on that bad man and shoot him, but Joe beat me to it. You're now showing that there's another concealed carrier that wanted to close with and destroy the enemy and was working his way to go do that. But he was just quicker than you because he was in a better position or something like that, right? Nothing against you. He just was in a better position. So make sure that you give that good statement, right? I am definitely telling you not to lie. Do not lie. If you lie, you die, okay? I'm saying to give the full effect of the fear that you felt. They're going to go ahead and take all your church video, all that kind of stuff. Your church is going to be closed up for a good 24 hours while they process the scene. All right, so now that we understand what's going to happen after a self-defense shooting, I've given you some things that you can do to be cooperative, yet not burn yourself, especially in that 911 call. What I want you to do from here is to, even if you're a concealed carrier, now this is for my church safety teams, but even if you're a concealed carrier, start doing scenario training that includes calling the police, having the police show up, interacting with them. If you can get your local police involved in some of the scenario training, that's awesome. They'll probably enjoy it because it's good training for them too. Also, get self-defense insurance. If you are carrying concealed and you don't have self-defense insurance, you're wrong. I have two types of insurance. I have FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, and I also have another one, which I'm not totally happy with right now due to some customer service issues, but I've got two kinds of insurance. I am looking for new insurance, so I'm going to do a video that's going to lay it all out. I'm going to talk to some of these insurance companies and find out what the best one is for you. Do not carry concealed and not have insurance. Now, something to think about with our church security teams, some insurance policies won't cover you for a church shooting because you're working as security. That's separate insurance. So you want to actually read, like if you, I don't know, whoever you have, just read the policy and see if they're going to cover you while you're working at church. A majority of them will not. You also want to get professional training. I keep bringing up professional training over and over again because I see a lot of people that think they're really, really good. In reality, they're not because they've never had professional training. Go through a basic Pistol 1 course that's 2 days long. Go through intermediate pistol and advanced pistol. Go through some classes that do force options that make you choose between different options of force. Go through all that stuff because it makes you better and it makes you better prepared. You have chosen to carry concealed. You've chosen to put yourself in a position to protect the people at your church. If you're going to do that, you need to take it seriously and go out and get that professional training. If you are in Idaho, my church and I are working out something that maybe in 2026 that we can do training for you in Idaho, and it would obviously be for free. So just like all my training is always free. If you go over to courses.christianwarriortraining.com, everything's free. You'll get a free certificate of training to go with that. Remember, train, train, train. All right. Remember your ABCs. Always be caring.